Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for coming in to meet with the Parksville District and Qualicum Beach Chambers of Commerce to discuss policies that our advocacy organizations have put forward to the BC Chamber of Commerce for adoption into the big manual to go forward to the BC government. So we're hoping to get your reaction, your feelings about these policies. And let's start with the current social crisis affecting businesses across the province. British Columbia is experiencing a mental health and addiction crisis. Mental illness and addiction affect 1 in 5 people across Canada. We've seen a rise in incidents in the Oceanside region. What is the BC Liberal government going to do in terms of making our communities ultra safe again?
Thanks, Kim. And before I start, I just want to say how grateful I am for having the chambers in our community, both Parksville and Qualicum, for the work and the advocacy that you do for our small businesses. Small business is the heart of our communities. 98% of business in BC are small businesses. So it's vitally important that we are listening to those voices, and the role that the chambers play in funneling that up to the provincial organization and into government is important, because that's how we ensure that our communities are thriving and our business owners are competitive and finding those opportunities to be successful. You touched on the crisis. We have 2 crises right now, both COVID-19 and the opioid crisis. Homelessness has increased in the last 3 years. We've seen the opioid crisis go up in the last 3 years, more overdose deaths, and it is something that fundamentally I believe in the 4-pillar approach, and I believe that the current government, the NDP government, has paid too much attention and put too much funding into just harm reduction while forgetting about prevention, treatment, and recovery. Those are fundamental pieces to getting to the root of the cause of why someone gets street entrenched, becomes addicted to drugs. We need to be able to provide those supports to those individuals while ensuring we have a better balance of ensuring not only are we supporting those who are suffering with addiction or homelessness, but we also have to have that balance for the rights of the families and the businesses that live in our communities, allowing them the opportunities to feel safe, for the businesses to be able to thrive and not to be dealing with the aftermath of what often comes with addiction and overdose. There's individual treatment programs that we need to focus on to ensure people are getting those supports. Housing is part of the solution. What we've seen is the NDP warehousing people in hotels without providing the actual wraparound supports that are needed to get those people the recovery that they need, the treatment that they need to, and the hope to a better life, to a better outcome, right? There's no doubt that my empathy for individuals is great, and I want to ensure that we recognize this is a medical problem, and we need to ensure that we find or provide those individuals a pathway off drugs.
And that pathway off drugs leads us possibly to housing, which is another major topic and another major focus of the BC Chamber of Commerce and the member chambers, because it has an enormous impact on everything that we do in terms of attracting employment, attracting investment, attracting all those other kinds of things. So let's start with the strata issue and strata insurance rates. What do we do to knock these back down again from the huge increases that we've seen recently impacting people enormously in their pocketbook?
Absolutely. I mean, the current pressures that we're seeing on strata owners is it's crazy, really. 800% increases to strata premiums. We're seeing senior housing complexes who, overnight see an increase of $100,000 to an insurance premium. That's certainly not something that is sustainable. In February of this year, Todd Stone brought forward a private member's bill around the strata insurance premium issue. Unfortunately, the NDP chose not to call it for debate, didn't bring it to the floor, and instead they they brought their own bill forward that didn't actually address the major problems that the strata owners are actually experiencing. It didn't provide any financial relief, didn't provide any actual ability for the strata owners to keep money in their pockets. It's something that is completely unaffordable and needs a solution. And, I was hoping that by today I would be able to tell you what that solution is, but I can tell you that in our policy platform next week, we will see a specific initiative that will tackle this problem for strata owners.
So as this is being taped a little bit in advance of next week, it won't be released actually until the 15th of October, when your policy platform will probably be out. So,
well, let's hope that people can recognize it and see that, there's a lot of economic uncertainty, and we need to ensure that we're supporting those families and keeping more money in people's pockets.
So speaking of supporting families, we put forward a couple of pieces around supporting farming families.
Yes.
The amendments to Bill 52 created significant challenges for farmers in terms of what they're allowed to do on their land, including the provision of housing for families and workforce. Tell me what you plan on doing to mitigate those impacts.
Well, certainly when Bill 52 came out, it was something that truly created more barriers for our farmers. It was something that actually took the rights of farmers away. Their inability now, the legislation didn't even call them or refer to them as people.
Yeah.
And it took away their ability to actually apply to the ALR for any kind of removal or any kind of work that they want to do. They now have to go through local governments. They don't actually get to speak to it themselves. They have to get that approval from the municipality first. I heard from so many devastated farmers and farm families that, were thinking of succession plans, thinking about how their kids could take over the land and continue the farming as they age. And the inability for a landowner, a farmer, to build a home for his family so that they can be the succession plan, or to have homes on the land for the employees. We're going to talk about the struggle for having enough homes for employees in the tourism sector. It's a challenge, and the one thing we can say for sure is that when we get into government, the BC Liberals will repeal Bill 52 so that we, aren't regulating farmers into oblivion, so that we are providing them opportunities and encouragement, ways to incentivize them to be creative, to use that farmland and, be able to support their families.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So staying with housing, workforce housing has been an issue in this community for some time. The affordability, the availability. I've included in your package a rather comprehensive set of recommendations that was actually the Parksville District Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade worked on together. Tell me how you feel about the recommendations that have been made. Tell me if there's anything in there that we can count on being implemented by a BC Liberal government.
Well, you're right. The whole package was very thorough and very, has some great ideas. And, I certainly agree that the lack of diverse and affordable housing, it puts a significant detriment on employers and employees when they're trying to build their business, trying to thrive. It's also about that housing affordability, the adequate housing supply, ensuring that we're providing the opportunities for developers, for municipalities to meet those unique needs in their communities and build what is needed. We certainly seen the NDP promised 114,000 more affordable homes when they came into government over 3 years ago. And to date, we don't even have 3,000 of those homes. On that timeline, we're looking at 100 years before things come to fruition and there's a significant impact. The BC Liberals are going to have a very comprehensive housing affordability strategy. I think we'll find that it's probably the most significant in all of North America, and it will provide not only new supply but affordable housing options for all British Columbians. And I'm really excited to see that come out in the next few days as we unveil our platform, and just recognizing that as we move forward, we have to work with municipalities to ensure that we're able to increase that construction and that supply in local communities. And that's part, I think, with incentive programs or permitting changes and working on some of those details.
So I'm going to shift gears completely here and move over to one of the island's major economic drivers, which is the forestry sector. The Parksville District and Qualicum Beach Chambers of Commerce have been working with the Vancouver Economic Alliance, Vancouver Island Economic Alliance, over the last several years to look at wood supply for smaller companies, for secondary wood manufacturing companies, and they struggle to get fiber supply. So we, again, put together a policy, this time actually working with one of our northern colleagues. Tell me how you feel about what we've said with regard to granting non-tenured harvesters better access to fiber.
Well, I think a lot of the ideas that were shared in that policy paper were significant, and I think you probably saw our announcement last week regarding the forestry industry, a plan to ensure that those jobs and the confidence is put back into our rural communities. Forestry is one of the major economic resources we have in our province, and it's basically been ignored for the last three and a half years. So we've committed to having that plan to fix the broken stumpage system, to cut the permit processing time, for new mines, but also to pursue the resource benefit sharing framework to support those small and rural communities. It was the NDP who took the rural dividend fund out of our communities. We've seen here on North Island what happened up in with the forestry strike, and how devastating it has been for the communities up there to go from the months and months of forestry strike into the COVID pandemic and the struggle that we're seeing there. So we certainly need to implement more effective, efficient, and responsive market pricing on stumpage, and work with industry to modernize things.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close it there. I thank you so much for coming in, and we're all looking forward to watching the results as they roll in. I'm guessing sometime in November now because of the mail-in ballots and those sorts of things. But we're looking forward to seeing the results, and we're looking forward to being able to present to the new government all of the policies from the BC Chamber of Commerce so we can get some action on them. Thanks again so much.
Thank you, Kim. I hope that on the eve of the election, things come out that people recognize I've worked hard for this community, tirelessly for this community, love and support this community, and want to continue to be that advocate and continue our work together to the betterment of everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.